Hi everyone and welcome to class. I am currently in Brisbane right now, not for a holiday but for work unfortunately, and I'm going to be running you through a painting tutorial for today's class. Feel free to follow along, and if you have a creative urge to just do your own thing, that's okay too. Go ahead and do your own thing if you prefer that, but feel free to follow along with this fun tutorial. This is the second time I'm recording it because the first time one of my devices didn't work and I didn't realise till afterwards. So I'm painting it again. So when you get to the to Life Choice Solutions, you'll see that there's 2 example paintings. So yeah, all good. I'm going to set up my cameras and start painting. Follow along. Okay, I've got a few cameras set up so you can see different angles and you can see my palettes and brushes and things like that. So let's get started. First thing you'll need is a canvas, so go ahead and grab one. This one's a bit rough because I've already used my allocated canvas, so I had to paint over an old one and it's a bit lumpy, so that's fine, you can have a fresh one. Okay, now, once you've got your canvas, and feel free to stop this video at any time to get the things you need. You'll also need a palette, so hopefully there's already the equipment set out for you, but if you don't have one, go and grab one of these out of the kitchen. They're on the top shelf on the left-hand side. So grab yourself a palette. Mine is set up here in this camera so you can see it. Hi. And mix along with me. Alrighty. Feel free to pause the video now if you need to get your stuff, and then play it again when you're back with your canvas and your palette and your paints. Alrighty. So now that you've got your canvas, your palette and your paints, you should be able to see my canvas in one part, the palette in another, and a view of the paints and things in another one. So I've got my white and I'm just squeezing out a good portion of white there. Alrighty, so squeeze out a good lump of white like you've seen there. Now we are going for a cool blue. That's a cool blue, can you see that? Cool blue. Alrighty, so you've got your cool blue. And we're going to squeeze out a good portion of that next to the white. About that much is my best guess. Alrighty, now you have this tape here that I will leave here in the office for you. It's masking tape. See this green roll? We're going to use this to find our horizon and make it nice and straight. So, just going to use my teeth to break it, and you're going to choose where your horizon goes and stick the tape down there so we can try to get it straight. I'm going to put my horizon kind of 2/3 of the way up. You can choose to put it down the bottom or up the top, wherever you like. And remember, we're going around the sides because we want to paint the sides of our painting as well. All good? Cool. Alrighty, so let's mix up our sky. We're going to do the sky first. So we've got cool blue and white. Alrighty. So we're going to mix about half of each, just like this, just like I've showed you in class. See how I grab the back of the palette knife and squish them in together? That's what we're doing. And then you're going to mix them together in the middle. Mix, mix, mix. Alrighty. Now you've got 50% cool blue, 50% white. And see how I'm just keeping it all together? I'm not covering my whole palette with it. I try to keep all the colour here in this end. Alrighty, so this is our reference picture, which you'll have in front of you. You have a look at the colour compared to the reference picture, and you sort of have a look at how close that colour is. It's pretty perfect, isn't it? So this is this part here. It's about halfway through the sky. So the down low is going to have a bit more white, and up high might have a bit more cool blue. Alrighty, looking good. So I'm just going to mix a little bit of this mid blue into the cool blue like this to make a darker shade for the top of the sky. Okay, squish, squish, squish. See, I'm just kind of squishing down. I'm not really doing this because that takes longer. I find it's easier just to sort of squish it. Okay, so there's a slightly darker version, and then we're going to have a slightly lighter version off to the side. I'm just going to grab a rag. If you haven't got a rag, go grab a rag from the kitchen now and wet it. Because you'll need that to wipe off your palette knife and your brushes periodically. So see, I'm just wiping that, and then I'm going to grab this white and I'm going to mix a little bit of the blue in with the white to make a lighter shade. So now I have a light shade, a medium shade and a dark shade. This is going to be our sky. Alrighty. Beautiful. Now, you're going to want a big brush for the sky. So, there's some big ones like this, which are nice. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter. Soft brushes will work well. Maybe one like this would be good as well. See that black one? And yeah, these two, or the really big one. Alrighty, I'm going to go with one of these black ones. So once you've got your big brush, we're going to paint the sky. But first I'm just going to grab a tub of water because I don't have any water. If you don't have any water in front of you, just do what I'm doing. Go to the kitchen and fill yourself up a jar of water. Alrighty, so I've got my jar of water. Maybe I'll put it here. Let's see. Yep, not talking to you, Siri. Go away. Alright, so you can't see my water, but that's okay. I'll tell you when I'm dipping in. So I'm just dipping it in now just to wet it. So I got the bristles a bit wet. And now I'm going to start with horizon. So I'm going to go into the light one. There's no real wrong or right way to do this, but you probably want to start at one end and work your way slowly to the other end. So I've loaded up my brush with pretty much all of that paint, and I'm going on really aggressively sideways. Okay, I want you to follow along. Go sideways, just like I'm doing, side to side, all the way along that tape. And then don't forget to do your edges. See how I'm going along the tape like this? If you go the other way, it's going to go get all stuck underneath the tape. Alright, then we go into the next blue. Maybe mix it with a bit of the paint that's already on your brush. Don't wash it. Okay, don't wash it. Just go straight on there. And now we're going to make a line above the one that we've just done. And the paint is still on the brush, and I'm working quite aggressively. I just dipped it into the water there just because it feels a little bit sticky, a bit dry. Okay, and I'm just squish, squish, squish. I'm really pushing the paint into the canvas to get rid of any of those white lines. And again, I've just dipped it into the water probably 3 times now, just to kind of hydrate it a little bit because the paint feels a bit sticky. Okay, don't forget your edges. Alrighty, and now that you've got the 2 colours, we're going to blend them. Don't go too far down. Just going to blend these 2. I'm using quite a bit of water because the paint is quite sticky. So if you find that it's not blending, just dip it into your water. Okay, and I'm going back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, just like that. And then slowly working my way up up, up, up until you get all the way to the top of the line, and then you go back into your paint. This time go straight into the middle colour and dump that on there. I like the little squiggle technique because it really sort of pushes the paint into the holes of the canvas when you sort of squish the bristles and wiggle like this to really wiggle the paint in there, because you don't want any of those white dots shining through. So let's really push the brush in, and then same deal, we're just blending. So you just go back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Don't go the other way, up and down, because you're going to ruin it. Just go side to side, like this, side to side, side to side. Again, don't forget your edges. Okay, now we're going to not even wash our brush, just dip straight into the darker one, and the same thing. Just cover it with paint first. Bit of water to help it along. So just cover it with paint first, and then we're going to blend. After I do the edges. Okay, so don't forget about your edges, very important. Okay, just rehydrating the brush a little bit. And now I'm going back and forth quite aggressively, but I'm not going too far down, you see. I'm just working the paint into the canvas so that there's no white dots. And once I've got rid of the white dots, there's one more there, trying to get rid of. Okay, once I've got rid of the white dots, then I'm just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, quite aggressively while the paint is still wet to get a nice blend. Okay, now that is good enough for me. I'm just rinsing off my brush, but not too well because I'm still going to be working with the blue. Alrighty, so that is our horizon. So I want you to carefully peel off the tape. The best way to do it is like this. You pull straight down towards the bottom of the canvas. Look how perfect that line is. That's because I didn't go up and down, I just went side to side. And I'm pulling straight down so that nothing tears or goes messy. Alrighty, chuck that in the bin. Go over here to the bin in the kitchen and chuck that away. Feel free to do the same. Okay, and feel free to pause the video whenever you need a break. Okay, so we've got our sky, and there is a little part here that's still got some white dots, so I'm just going to push my brush into here and try to get rid of that. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, cool. You will also need a spray bottle because it is quite hot and dry. It'll probably cool off by the time you guys do this, but still, it is quite hot and dry, so I think we should keep a spray bottle handy. I'm just looking around for one. Oh, here's one. Alright, so if you haven't got a spray bottle, go find a spray bottle. I just got one there. Okay, the next part we're going to do is the water. Alrighty, so we are going to use the cool blue again, but you see how this water is quite a bit darker than the sky and quite a bit greener and almost a bit more murky, a bit muddier in colour. So to get that we need to add the teeniest bit of red in this part here, just a tiny bit, just to knock it back a little bit, and then of course yellow with the blue to make the green. So let's have a crack at that. Okay, we're back into the cool blue. See that? Cool blue. And you're just going to put it a little bit further down. We'll keep some of the sky colour just in case we need it for later, although we probably won't. Alright, so we've got a bit of cool blue. We're going to go into the cool yellow as well, and that's going to go right here next door. Not as much yellow as there is blue. Now I mentioned before adding the teensiest bit of red. We're going to go for the cool red, and just don't go too nuts, just a tiny touch of this. We're going to use this sort of for the shadows, the shadowy parts, which are like the mountains as well, but there's not going to be a lot of it. Put it on the darker end, so where the blue is. Alrighty, we're going to start by, oh, and a bit of white actually. You'll need some white as well. So we're going to keep our white over this side here. Alrighty, again, palette knife is a good idea for this. We're going to mix most of our blue with a bit of our yellow. Here we go. I'm recycling a bit of this watercolour, sky colour, sorry, from the top end. Okay, and I'm mixing that up. I'm just mixing it by squishing. See, I'm sort of just like squishing it all into one lump so that I'm not dirtying the whole palette, because I'm going to need the rest of this palette for the other colours. Alright, so that's only got a tiny bit of white that I recycled from there. Now what we do, as you probably guessed it, because I always tell you guys this, grab your reference picture. Alrighty, grab your reference picture and then just hold it up against the picture. Okay, and if you haven't quite got that colour, I want you to go again and mix again. This is pretty much it. First go, look at that. So what it was cool blue, yellow, tiny bit of white. So that was just cool blue mixed with white, so there's no extra blues, it's all cool blue. Since I already have some on my palette knife, I'm just going to recycle that by putting it down here like this, and then I'll pick up my brush and start using my brush. If we had more time, we would let this dry and then put another piece of masking tape there. But what we're going to do for today, for the sake of time, is just paint carefully up to the line. Now, if you get this line wrong, it's okay, because most of the horizon has mountains on it, which we're going to paint later. So don't stress too much if you accidentally stuff it up, because any mistakes you can cover with the mountain, which we'll go on later. We really need the sky to dry before we can put on a mountain, so that's that. Okay, I just noticed a little mistake that I sort of scratched my canvas in the sky part, so I'm just going back into this sky colour, and I'm just going to correct that. Lovely. Okay, you don't need to wash your brush. If it's still got sky on it, don't worry about it. Go straight into this greeny colour that you just mixed, and if you haven't got the greeny colour, please pause this video until you've got it. And I'm not going to go quite up to the line just yet, because I want to do that a bit carefully later. I'm just going to cover the majority of this ocean part with this green that's a little bit darker. There's nowhere near as much white in this green as there was in the sky, which matches the reference picture pretty perfectly. And you have the reference picture in the office where you are, so you can grab that, have a look, match your colour, come back. Alright, now you'll notice in the reference picture that this side of the painting that I'm working on now, this one is not a lot of this dark green. This one is all sea foam and a bit of brown sand and reflections of the land. So just be mindful of that. We're not going to go all the way across. We're just going to focus on the right-hand side. Okay. Again, don't forget your edges. And while this is still wet, we are going to do a bit of blending. So I want you to blend into your sky colour if you've still got some. If you don't have any, you're going to use your white. Just a bit of spritz to refresh everything because it's quite dry today. I'm going to go into this white, or the sky colour with the white in it. And we're just going to make this side a bit lighter and blend that in. Again, the paint's, ooh, I just splashed my sky. Looks like that's going to have to be a mountain. Okay, so I'm just adding a little bit of white, and then I'm going side to side. See how I'm working side to side like this, crossways? If you want it to look like ocean, you've got to go side to side, like that. So I don't want to see you painting down for this particular one. I want you to go side to side. Okay, and it's going to get lighter into this white over here, because we're going to end up painting this a bit different, more like the picture. So not as much blue, it's going to be much lighter. So I'm just going in here with the white and lightening up this side. So I'm being quite aggressive at this stage. See, I'm not really being careful. I'm just sort of like splashing the paint on. I'm just being careful around this horizon because I don't quite want to commit to that just yet. Going side to side, side to side, and blending it a little bit. Okay, it's okay if it's streaky because that's pretty true to what the ocean looks like. Alrighty. Now I dropped some water on the sky, but I'm not going to touch it because if I touch it now, those little dots are going to become white, like it's going to pull the paint right off. So I'm going to let them dry, and they might leave a little bit of a mark, but it's nowhere near as bad as if I touched it now. It would be even worse. So if you do the same thing, probably just leave it, I think, and come back to it. Okay, so don't forget the sides. Okay, now you notice in the reference picture how the bottom part of the image, this is less blue and more a greyish brown colour, and then it gets really green over this side. So we're going to kind of replicate that. To get this greyish colour, we add a red. So I'm adding red to the cool blue / green, like this. And then, so that should give us sort of a purplish shade. And then to get it more on the brown side, we're going to add a yellow. But this time we're going to add a different yellow. We're going to add this warm yellow, which is the one that's more orangey in colour. See that orangey yellow? That's the one that you want to use, not this one. So it's not cool, it's warm. So squeeze a good lump of that and mix that into your purpley shade that you've got here. And we're going to work it slowly until we get the right colour. So right now it's quite a green which is going to be handy for a bit of our mountains, although they'll be a bit darker. So to get rid of green, what do? You add red, because red is the opposite of green. So we've got a lovely green that'll actually be quite handy, but we need more red. I'm going to add some cool red. See that one? Oops, where's the camera? That one. Cool red. I'm just going to pop it right in there. A bit messy. Okay, I'm going to mix that in. And now we have a brown. Okay, a bit of a reddish brown now actually. So I'm going to mix the rest of the yellow into this side here to get more of that sandy shade. Now this might take you a bit of going back and forth to get this colour, but just try to follow along. You might need to pause the video or go back in the video if you haven't got it right as quickly as I did. So don't feel sad or like you're falling behind if you haven't got it. Just pause the video until you've got the right colour. And if you've got the right colour but maybe somebody else who's following along doesn't, maybe you could help them out and see if you can help them find the right colour. Okay, so now we need to add whites to this because it's a little too dark as it is, but I'm not going to add white to the whole thing. I'm just going to add white to one part of it, like this. So I'm going to leave some light. Okay, so now I have this browny colour. And what I'm looking for is the colour of the ocean floor behind. Now this is a little lighter, but remember acrylic dries darker, so I'm not too worried about that. I think this is going to be okay. So I'm just going to like plonk it on there without really worrying too much. I haven't even washed my brush. I'm just sort of plonking it on there. And eventually I'm going to end up blending this into the green. But first I'm just going to get rid of all my white spots in this canvas. And also I'm not going all the way across because it's going to get bright green over here. So I'm just sort of going down the this side of the canvas. What do you call it? Left side of the canvas. Just putting the paint on there. And I'm being quite aggressive at this stage. I'm not really being careful about it. You can do the same. Just plonk it on there. Don't get too precious. I'm still using a really big brush. And I'm not worried about any details. I'm just trying to get rid of the white. Okay. Now I'm actually going all the way up into this green. But don't worry, we're going to add some green back in. Oh, actually, it's kind of majority blue, isn't it? Okay, now you're going to have to work really quickly here. Go back into your ocean colour. And then you're going to add some more over here and we're going to blend it. I'm going to add a little spritz of water because it really is quite dry today. It's a really hot day. It was 37 degrees, so everything's a little bit dry and sticky at the moment. Just adding some water because it's quite dry and sticky. And I'm not worrying about cleaning my brush. I'm just going all the way up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. See how the green is sort of mixed in now with that sandy colour? That's what I'm after. Okay, so I'm after that ocean green mixed with this brown, and I'm going side to side like this. So I don't want to see you going up and down at this stage, we just want to go side to side this way. Okay, now I'm adding a bit of white just because it does get lighter as it goes off into the distance, and I'm being quite aggressive with it. I'm just dipping into the white, not even cleaning my brush. just going in there, and you can see how I'm getting closer to the horizon here. And I'm going across like this. Always this way, side to side. I'm not worried about the streaks because we're going to be adding all these streaks anyway, because it's like the ocean, you know. A bit of water to help mix, and I'm just going to smooth this out a little bit. You can always just keep adding paint, you know, adding different colours, streaking it on there. I'm not too worried about, oh, I've got to do this perfectly or whatever. Just kind of being quite relaxed about it. So I want you to do the same. Just be quite relaxed about it. Okay, if you need to pause the video here until you get to this stage, go ahead and pause it. Remember to work quite quickly while it's still wet. Okay, so now is your chance to pause the video if you need to pause to get to this stage. Okay. All right. The next stage is to add this more greeny part. So it goes from this grey brown into a really sort of bright green over this section. So the way we're going to do that is from the grey brown, but we already have the brown here, we have the sea colour here. We're going to add yellow to make it green, and maybe a bit of white to lighten it up. So you see that? I've got my greyish brown, my ocean green, adding cool yellow, which we already squeezed out earlier, and a little bit of white. And I'm just going to, again, work quite quickly and cover this section, and then I'm going to do the same thing that I did over there where I sort of just added more colours and blended it. Again, I'm being quite quick and aggressive using a very large brush. I'd like you to use a large brush too and be quite quick and aggressive with it. Okay, so I'm making sure I paint my sides as well, and then I'm just sort of getting all the paint off my brush by just swishing it side to side. See those little streaks coming through? No problem at all. Just go for it. Okay, and now we're just sort of doing the same thing. We're just adding, we're adding some blues, we're adding some greens, we're just going side to side, a bit of water to help it along. Don't think about it too much, just wipe across. There you go. Alrighty, look at that. If you need to pause the video now, you might need to again if you haven't quite got to this stage. So now is your chance to pause the video if you need to get this green on there. I've just mixed up a bit of a lighter green, so it's the exact same colour, but I've just got a little bit of white in there now. And I'm just adding some of these little highlighty bits. So there's a wave here which I kind of want to get into the scene. So I'm adding a lighter green where I want this wave to go. Again, adding a bit of water because it is quite dry today. So I'm going to add this sort of greenish, just a little baby wave, and I'm just sort of blending it so that it doesn't stand out too much. And then just adding some little highlights with the lighter green. Just swiping a fairly dryish brush over to get a few little lighter green highlights. Okay. That'll do. Alright, remember how we didn't go all the way up to the horizon? We're going to revisit that now, but we need a smaller brush. I like probably this one. Ooh. See how I've got kind of a small brush, but it's square? I like this because I like to use it sideways and get a nice sharp edge. So if I just put it in the water there, See how you can get a really nice sharp edge with that? So I want you to do that. Mix into this sea green with a little bit of the white and just go over your horizon carefully. And it's okay if it's lighter, because in the reference picture it is actually lighter towards the horizon. And see how I'm using it sideways? So I'm using the brush on its side like this. It's actually kind of hard to see from this angle. I might need to cover your view so I can get this down there a bit better, but that's the basic gist of it. Okay, so just bear with me. I might put my head in the view for a second, just because I can't really see. And I'm making lots of mistakes here, but that's okay because there's going to be mountains, like I said. So the mountains are kind of going to help cover up some of these things. And don't forget your edges. So I'm just getting rid of the white dots of the canvas shining through. And if it's a bit hard to get rid of them, maybe just dip your brush into the water just to refresh it a little bit and then try again. So I'm just getting in here with the paint, squishing the paint into the little white dots and trying to get rid of those. And wherever the mistakes are, we can make sure we put the mountains there. Okay. And now I'm just adding a bit more paint down lower. Sorry, I'm getting my head in your view, but I'm just adding a bit of paint down lower here just to sort of blend what I've just done into the rest of the ocean. And then, of course, I'm trying to match this with the brownie colour. While it's still wet. Okay, so now more or less we have a horizon. Alrighty. There's actually a beautiful sunset happening, but I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if we can get that on camera. It's a bit hard to see, but look at that. Wow! Amazing! I wish I could go outside and take a photo, but I can't stop filming. I have to get this done. Alright, I'm going to tilt you back down onto this. Okay, that should do it. Okay, alrighty, this is basically touch dry, and these little parts where I drop some paint on will be dry soon. So let's start mixing up the colours for the mountains. You've already pretty much done it over here. This brown one, you're just going to add more of the cool blue to get the mountains. And then as the mountains get further away, we just add a bit of white, a bit more white to them. It's so dry today, oh my goodness. My palette is like drying out instantly. If yours is drying out too, give it a good spritz. Okay, so I just added the cool blue into the reddish purpley colour to make a mountain colour. Okay, so if you need to pause the video until you get that colour right, go for it. See that? Just going to touch that on there. It's almost black. It's very dark. So that's going to be the mountain that's closest to the viewer. So we're just going to put that on over top of the sky. I'm going to attempt to not completely ruin my horizon. Okay. And then you can just get the shape of the mountain in there. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can make it a different shape. It is up to you. The beauty about this part is that there's no mistakes because you can just say that's how it was. Just being careful along the horizon to try to keep it straight. And it's not perfectly straight. It won't be without masking tape, but there you go. Okay. So now I've got my my mountain in there. Make sure there's a few little like things jutting up so it's not like perfectly flat because, you know, there would be trees and stuff. So you don't want it to be like perfectly smooth. Okay, so I've got my first mountain in there. Now, same colour, we're just going to add white. Or, you know, we've already got some over here that's a bit lighter. So you just add that. Or just add white. A little bit of white. Okay? So add a little bit of white to your mountain colour to make a slightly lighter mountain colour. And then we're going to paint the second mountain on there. Okay, so I'm going to go with kind of like that, which is a tiny bit lighter, but remember it will dry darker. So this is the second mountain. See that? See that? I'll put a touch of it up there. Okay, so that's going to be my second mountain. If you need to pause the video, and then just start again once you've got the right colour. Alrighty, so I'm going to do the second one. This is the kind of pointy one. When my brush is really full, I go towards the horizon because I know I'm going to get the cleanest line when my brush is really full. Okay, and this one has a peak a bit like a volcano. It's pretty cool. And remember this technique where you squeeze the brush? I'm going to show you close. Squeeze the brush, make it nice and sharp. See how sharp that is now? See that? And then dip the end in, and then you have a nice sharp line, and I'm going to use that to go along the horizon. As the mountains get further away, they get lighter and a little bluer, and they also are less detailed because you can't really see individual trees so much. So we're doing a little less detail as far as like making the edges sort of trees and stuff. So we're making this one a little bit smoother, a little less detail. Okay, there we go. All right, mountain number 2 done. Now, you've guessed it, we're going to do the third mountain with a little bit more white. So see my palette over here? Just going to put some white, and we're going to add a little bit of this white in with our mountain colour. Okay, so you just don't wash your brush, no point, just go straight in there. Mountain colour, add a bit more white. So it's the same shade with a bit more white. It doesn't matter that this blue is behind on my palette because it's the same blue. That blue is the cool blue, and that's the same blue that we used in here. So it's just more of the same. If you're getting more of a purpley shade at this point, it'll still look good. It'll still look good, but if you don't want it to look purpley, just add a bit more of your cool blue. But it should basically just be a slightly lighter version of what you've done here. So now I'm going to fix up my little mistake. You can see this little drop of water that I dropped on there. I'm not going to wait for it to dry. Technically I should, but we're kind of pressed for time. Oh my goodness, the sunset is so beautiful right now. Oh my goodness. I wish I could go out and photograph it. It's so nice. Let me try to show you. Okay, see if this works. Oh, look at that. I know you can't really see it because this window is kind of like got that stuff on it, but oh, look at that. I wish I could go out there and photograph it. It's so nice. Wow. Oh, this is my setup. Do you want to see behind the scenes? Ready? There we go. Behind the scenes. Alright, I'm going to put you back here because you're going to look at my palette. Alrighty. Just lock you back in there. Alrighty. Alright, back to work. My goodness, the sunset is so nice. I love it. Oh, God's creation is amazing. Okay. He is the ultimate artist. Tell you what. Third mountain. If I can stop staring at the sunset for long enough to get it on there. Alright, let's do the third mountain. Alrighty, so this one's a little bit flatter, but I'm just going to make it tall enough just to cover my little spot there. What I did just there was rotating the brush as I moved along. If you want to get tricky, you can try that as well. So this mountain doesn't have as many details. It's getting even smoother. There's not a lot of trees or individual things happening like that. It's quite simple. Brush is getting a bit clogged up, so I'm trying to clean it off a little bit to get this part here. And once again, I'm going to show you the squeezy technique. I want you to do this. Squeeze, get a nice sharp edge. Then dip it back into the paint just on the edge like that. Got it? And then you can get in there with a lot more accuracy. Lovely. Mountain number 3. Now we're going to do yet another one. See this one off in the distance? So we're going to do that one as well, and then maybe some really far away ones. So we're just going to repeat the process, adding a bit more white. So get in here like this, a bit of white mixed with some blue. And we're going to add one more decently sized one, and then there will be some really small ones. Now this will dry darker, but it may be too light. We'll see. We'll see how it dries. Okay, I'm going to get a teeny tiny brush and just do a couple off in the distance and use this opportunity to sort of correct some of your horizon lines if mine is a bit dodgy, as you can see. I'm just going to go back into the same paint with a small brush. And again, it's not quite small enough, so I need to squeeze it because the brush was just too big to fit this mountain shape here. Just carefully adding these little mountains, and then I might need to make this one here a little darker. I'm just deciding on that. Might be okay. Might leave it for now for the sake of time. Oh my goodness, you guys, the sunset is so nice right now. My goodness, I really want to go out and look at it, but I can't because I've got to finish this. Alrighty. Okay, mountains are done. Next, we're going to think about the waves and the lighter parts. So we're going to add some highlights and some details, but first we're just going to put, we'll do some highlights and some details, and then we'll put the rock over top of them. That might be easier. Excuse my dirty painty fingers. Alrighty, so let's get our white. So hopefully you still have your white here. I'm just wiping off a bit of my green to get it away from my white so it's not too polluted. So clean off a space. You might need to squeeze out some more white if you've lost your white. I'm just wiping off my palette knife here because I don't want to dirty my white, and then I'm just moving some off to the side. Hopefully I'll be able to dip into that. And if it gets too dirty, I just might need to get a new squish of paint. But let's persist with it for now. I'm going to go for another square brush. So probably this one again. I'm just going to wash it off. Square one is good because you can get those lines going across. So anytime I sort of want to do linear type things, I know the waves aren't completely linear, but to make them look sort of realistic, you do have to kind of work sideways. Now, as you can see, this white is pretty polluted with this blue, but that's okay. I'm just going to use it as it is, and then I'll add purer white over the top once it's a bit dry. Okay, so there's going to be a rock over here, and we'll paint it over top of our white bits. See how there's quite a lot over this side of these white bits, and they get closer and closer together as it gets closer to the horizon. And now I'm just touching the edges of the paintbrush here, so it's almost like little splashes at the edge of the mountain. Now, if you haven't got this far yet and you're still working on your mountains, please pause the video and go back and do that. Okay. Now, they're not all evenly spaced. They've got some closer together than others, but the general shape of them goes side to side like this. So I want you to just work side to side, and as you get further down, you're going to make them further away. Just hydrating my brush a little bit to get it nice and wet, so I can get a bit more like transparent lines. So these ones will dry a bit more transparent. So there's going to be a rock here, somewhere like this, in this section. So I'm just sort of putting the white around where the rock is going to go, and we can add more once the rock is in there. And then as you get closer to here, it becomes less linear and more random shapes like this. So it's a little bit more closer to the viewer, and so it's not quite as straight across. So the closer you are to the horizon, the more straight across it is, like really straight, like that. And then the closer you get down here, the more they're sort of dotting and swirling and a little less defined. So you can add a few little dollops of white in here. Just really be kind of random with your brush, just scratch it around. Just being a little bit not too careful, but you're also not painting the whole thing white. You got to leave some blue. Okay, and that's looking pretty good. I don't mind that. We're going to do the rock in a moment. I'm just going to do the top of my wave over here. So I sort of started putting in a wave this way. So I'm just going to do a few little white bits on top of that wave. The reference picture, it's not terribly defined. But I'm just going to add that there. So I'm rotating my brush and trying to make it look a bit random, so it's not like visible brush strokes. And then there's also one up here, which I'm sort of deciding whether I want to do that or not. Yeah. Okay. And again, sort of just touching my brush on it in different angles, rotating the brush around so it's kind of a bit more random. Ooh, in the other image that you'll see in the studio that I did when the camera wasn't working, I did a lot of this sort of touching the brush like this, like sort of dragging the side of the brush along. This canvas has been painted over multiple times, so it doesn't quite have the same texture, but you can try that with yours and it might work better, just dragging the brush along there to get that sort of textury look. Okay, so you can try that. Yeah, it's actually not looking too bad like that with the texture that this canvas has. Don't mind it. Yeah. I'll take it, sure. Alright, cool. Let's add our rock. I kind of want the same brush, but it's got so much of that paint on it, I'm just going to get a fresh one. I'm going to get this one because a rock doesn't necessarily need a flat brush. Okay, back into this mountain colour. Remember what we painted the mountains with? This really dark colour. I've also got a bit more of this brown. Could add a bit more brown into it. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. In my other painting, I just used the straight up mountain colour. And we can just block it in. Just going to block this rock in. Block it in, block it in. And don't worry about getting it perfect because there's a rock. Who's to say what the rock looks like or what it doesn't look like? Just as long as it's kind of jagged and then kind of flat at the bottom, because that's where it's like touching the water. So yeah, kind of doing these ones like kind of flat at the bottom. There's another one sort of sticking out there, and this just has rocky, and then this part is actually like a shadow, but you can't really see because the shadow looks just like the rock. The only reason you kind of know it's a shadow is because how smooth it is and it like follows the waterline. So I'm just going to paint it all the same colour like that. That'll do. There's also another one here if you want to add it. Yeah, I'm just going to add a little thing here. Maybe with a bit more brown. It's up to you. There could be a rock there. There could be no rock there. Whatever you feel like. It's kind of like really far down there. Alrighty, so now we've got some rocks. I might want to add some highlights to the rocks. So in the picture, the highlights are basically just the rock colour with a bit of white. So you just add a bit of white maybe to this side with a little bit of the brown. Okay, and I'm just going to add a bit more white. You can see that there. It's basically the same colour that we did over here, you know, for like the sandy ocean colour. And then, of course, you really want these highlights to be quite sharp, so squeeze your brush off. Okay, squeeze your brush off and then just kind of randomly dot some highlights on there. I always hated painting rocks. So hard. So hard to make them look like rocks, isn't it? So I'm just sort of kind of like randomly dotting, like try not to make it really even, just make it really like clumps of bits and pieces here and there. Hopefully it'll look something like a rock. Close enough is good enough, hey? That'll do. Same with this one here. I'm just going to add a few little bits and pieces. Alrighty. And I'm just going to go back over some of these highlights with the darker colour, just to try to like knock some of them back a bit. I feel like I kind of made too many highlights. Now I'm going to kind of reverse it. Yeah, that's better. I don't mind that. Okay, by now your white parts should have dried a fair bit. So get a clean brush and some clean white. So just going to pop some of this on there, just clean white. And don't go into your dirty water too much, just spray it with a clean spray bottle so it's like not dirty. See how that's all like clean in the corner? Make yourself a little clean spot. Jump into that white, nice clean white, get it all into the brush, and we're just going to go over some of these white parts that we want to really highlight. So now that this one's dried a bit, it's kind of gone a bit see-through, so I'm going to add more over the top, but I'm not going to cover the whole thing. I'm going to leave some of them still like that colour. And I'm just going to add little bits and pieces here and there just to get a bit interesting. And again, I'm just going over it. This wave over here has quite a nice shape, but I didn't want to sit here for ages getting the shape right, so I thought I'd just do it quite quickly and just sort of do a lump over here. But I would really like to stay here for another couple of hours and get that shape right, but I know you probably don't want to go into that much detail. I like details though. And also along the horizon line, adding a bit more to really define the horizon. Okay, now I'm just cleaning off my brush, and with a clean brush that's wet, I'm just going to go back over this part here. Ooh, too wet. Too wet. Just going to clean up that line. See how you can kind of wipe it back? Very handy. And then we still have our ocean colour here, so if you need to fix anything up, you can go back into your ocean colour. Just getting water all over my canvas today. My goodness. Alrighty. Cool, cool. If you wanted to add some clouds, you could add some clouds now. Yeah. Up to you. Alrighty. That's more or less the basics. Now, if you want to go and add some more details, you can add a few things, or you can finish it there. But if you did want to add something more, you could potentially get into this green a little bit that we used before and just define some of those greeny highlights. So like this wave is really quite green. You can add some of those. I dropped some water on the canvas, which is why that spot is there, which is super annoying. So yeah, you could add some little bits of green highlighting. In the shallow water here, there might be some more sort of green highlights in there. And the see-through part of the wave might have a bit more green. See what I mean about the white spot? When you drop a bit of water on your canvas, you end up with these spots if you paint over it. That's why I suggest just let it dry and leave it be. But I couldn't help myself, could I? So yeah, adding a bit of these highlights. Okay, where was I? Back into this green with a bit of white. It's based around a cool yellow. You see that cool yellow? It's not the orangey yellow, it's the other one. This is one of those things, I feel like I'm making it worse. Luckily this will dry a bit darker and probably won't look as bad once it's dry. Okay. So again, I'm just sort of going with my brush on the side to make the lines a bit more random, textured. Alrighty. Ooh, that was a bit much, wasn't it? Might have to go back over that with some white. Got a bit excited there. Okay, and then the other thing is I would add some more white to the edges where this rock is, so where the water is sort of splashing up against the rock, it should be a bit more, a bit more white here. The edge of this shadow, and sort of splashy kind of thing happening here. Probably went a bit overboard there, but that's alright. Always a way when you know, people are watching you generally stuff things up a bit more, don't you find? I do anyway. But yeah, I think that'll dry quite well. Alrighty. If you've made it this far, well done. Well done. Feel free to go back through the video if there's parts that you missed or parts that you didn't quite get right. You might want to go back in the video. Otherwise, feel free to just sit here and keep painting and adding details. It's always hard to know when to sort of just call it quits, but yeah, I'll let you decide. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and thank you for painting along with me. Yeah, you will see these paintings here. There's two of them because I've had to do this tutorial twice now, so you'll have two of them to look at in the studio and or in the classroom. And there's also the reference picture that you can share around. Have a wonderful class, and I can't wait to see all your finished paintings. Bye.